Hello.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us on tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We are super excited that you all are joining us on tonight. We ask that if you can, as you're joining us, like, tag, and share. Put a comment down. Let us know that you are watching on tonight.
Yes. We need everybody to log in. We need everybody to log in tonight.
We are excited about tonight. We have our special guest with us, LaShawn.
Good
Welcome, LaShawn.
evening. Good
Sean?
evening. Good evening.
We are so excited that you are jumping on with us on tonight.
We
I
are.
I tell you, you never know where I'll have to show up.
You never know. And it's so funny because people always talk about, most people are asked, but some people are voluntold. And so you fall in that category quite often.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
I'm
thing about it,
voluntoed quite a bit, but
and
that's
one,
okay.
and one thing about it, we don't ever have to worry about you showing up because you always come through.
I try my best,
Absolutely.
and I can't see good whoever's like coming in. So,
Hey,
um,
Victor.
but
Thank
if I
you for
don't shout you
joining
out and say
us.
So
hello,
Vic,
it's
Tell
because I.
Janice we said hello. Hey, Tasha.
Hey, Tasha.
hey Tasha.
Thank you guys for joining us. So, we wanted to jump on tonight to talk about our youth support group that is happening on tomorrow. So, we have our youth support group starting tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and we are so excited about it.
We are.
I did not really, I can't say that I knew the depth of how much support group can really help until we experienced it ourselves. And so I wanted to have a conversation. And the reason that LaShawn is on is because a lot of times our children suffer in silence. And so they are dealing with things that we have no clue that they're dealing with after the loss of a loved one, especially if that loved one is very close to them. They feel very connected to that person. It's very hard for them, and sometimes they don't know how to express themselves or express their feelings. And so we want to give them a safe place that they're able to talk, they're able to express themselves, and they're also able to get some healthy coping skills to carry with them through their day-to-day journey on this thing called grief. Hey, Miss Jackie, thank you for joining us. And so we have LaShawn here tonight because some people may know, but some people don't know her story as a child and her experience that was really traumatic. Um, and so, LaShawn, if you would just go ahead and share your story.
Ironically enough, October of 1988, I lost my maternal grandmother, my mom's mom. Um, if you knew us at that time, you knew how close. And if you know me well, you know that my family's everything. We're close, um, very close knit. But I grew up in the house with my grandparent, some extended family, my uncles and aunts, and my mom and dad. So there were a lot of us in the house. But and so because there were so many of us in the house, I actually slept with my grandmother my life up until the point that she passed away. I was 12 when she passed away that October. But I guess what makes my story somewhat unique is that um, I woke up that morning, probably about three something that morning, and I've shared this a little bit before. So for some of you, I'm kind of reiterating the story, but for some of you, this is the first time that I'm encouraging you to make sure your youth do go to support group. But yeah, I was 12. We had gone shopping. We got back home. She had been up cooking, doing her normal thing. And my grandma was a young woman. My mom could probably tell me. I can't remember her age sometimes, but I don't know if she'd even made 60 yet. But she had been cooking, doing her own thing, and it was cold back then. You know, October is unlike the weather we have now. It was very cold. Um, Went to sleep, all that good stuff, and I woke up because I used to sleep, but then I slept with her. I slept in the bed with her, and I woke up about 3 o'clock. I was having like a runny nose or something, so I wanted to have her pass me some tissue because the way that our bed was positioned, I would be close to the wall and I slept behind her. But when I went to wake her up, she was unresponsive. And so at some point between the time that we returned and went to bed, she passed away peacefully in her sleep. But at 12, you literally can't really wrap your head around something like that and what's happening. And I think for a few minutes, I second guess if that's what was really happening. I think I just sat there in some shock and in some fear for a few minutes until I realized what was going on. She was cold, and just unresponsive. And so I knew then the next thing I was going to have to do was tell my mom, who was in another room. And so once I did get up and I went to the room where my mom was, I didn't really know how to tell her. Like, what do you say to someone? Again, I'm 12. How do you deliver that type of news? And so I told my mom I was scared, and that was not unlike me because I was a scary child. But I told her I was scared, and she was like, oh, like, what is it? And I said, Grandma won't wake up. And my mom, probably in a little bit of denial too. I remember her saying, "Oh, girl," kind of like, let me just go check this out. You just, stay here. And from that moment, it was pretty bad. She was distraught. There was chaos in the house. And um, from there, what I can remember is being put in a room alone because they did not want me to see her being, taken out of the house. But I remember the condensation on the window. I remember seeing the lights from the ambulance. And in that moment, feeling alone and not quite understanding what was going on. And then from there, I think I went to my cousin Selena's house and I stayed there with them that night. But yeah, so ultimately, not only did I have that traumatic experience of losing someone that I love, it was me and my grandma. We were like this, at that time, as close as my mom and I are now. I didn't even care what my mom was doing back then. You would always catch me with my grandma. So it was pretty traumatic. And from there, you as a child, you don't even know where to put that grief. My mom didn't know to maybe seek counseling or, something like a support group, things like that. She did buy me a dog. And that was a way to kind of soothe that void and to redirect some of that, of what I was feeling. But I carried that around for a long time. Just that hurt. And then ultimately I had to break my mama's heart, by telling her that her mom was no longer alive. So not only was I dealing with my own hurt and my own trauma, but for years I felt like I broke my mama's heart that night because I had to deliver that to her.
Wow.
That's a
Um,
lot.
and so um, I misplaced that grief, you know. It probably didn't even really have anywhere to go, so to speak. Like you don't
Mhm.
know where to put that. It went
Right.
somewhere, but I did not know where to put that grief or to put my feelings. Um, I don't really recall us talking about it much or even being asked, necessarily how I felt. Um, a lot of times we just kind of we move on. We're kind of the people that you know, we just move on and we don't really confront and sit in that thing sometimes and work our way through it.
Hmm. So it's so interesting. There are just so many moments in that, because that whole event is so traumatic.
Hmm.
And to understand that, one, you're dealing with the fact that you found her,
Right.
and then two, the second part of it is you have to share this information with your mom, and now you're hurting another person that you love. Like
Right.
that is a double whammy. And so that's a lot, and that's a lot to process. I love that your mom did get you a dog though, because that definitely was a help.
Yep.
And Pebbles, am I
Yep.
right?
You know what? Yep.
Um,
My cocker spaniel Pebbles. Yes.
yes. And so that was, and she, I'm sure, I don't know what she knew about that, but that definitely was a help for you,
Mhm.
um, to help you through that moment, right? Because we can't fill voids, but we can add things that help us to
Right.
make it through. And
Right.
so that definitely was a help for you.
Yeah, it gave me something to love on, and
Yes.
it literally, your dog is like your best friend. They're happy to see you. They're always going to show you love, and I did need that in that moment because it was such a void. It's still a huge void in my life because I always think about, the what ifs if she lived longer. Just to be able to see me grow up because she had been there literally from day one. So it was just an adjustment. Even like coming home from school, I would come home to her
Yeah.
because my mom would be at work. So then I was coming home to an empty house. It was just a lot of little things that I had to adjust to. And because I had slept with her for so long, there was an attachment to having someone in the bed with me too, and being
Yeah.
used to that. So for let's see, that was October and I was 12. And when I turned 13 that December, and I told my mom I was gonna, well, I slept with my mom and dad right in the middle of them for 2 months. And I know that's probably was awkward and a lot sometimes, but they did what they had to do to kind of help me out because I was afraid to sleep alone.
Absolutely.
After that, you would think I wouldn't want to sleep with anyone, but I was still afraid because I was scared of the dark. I was scared of all those things that some
Yeah.
kids are scared of. But and that was traumatic because later on that I told her that December, because I was turning 13, that I was going to try to then sleep alone by myself. And that was a long night. I'm going to tell you that because I heard every little noise in the house,
Absolutely.
and like when the heat was on, I felt better because I could hear that. But then when the house would get really quiet, it was stressful. I so much so, you used to be able to you could dial your own phone number back then, and it would make your house phone ring.
Right.
And I would do that so she would come down because I was not getting out that bed. I was not moving through the house in the dark, doing anything like that. But gradually, because I had the desire to, I feel like kind of just grow up and kind of, come into my teen years. Um, it went from I had to sleep with a nightlight, I couldn't sleep with the door closed, to okay, now I can turn the light off. So now I can close the door, and right now I can sleep in total dark. I can sleep in a total dark house right now today. But
Right.
it was an adjustment, even just, those little things like coming home and she's not there, you
Yeah.
know, because that was such my norm at that time. Um, so ultimately, I've walked around throughout life for 30 something years with that still somewhat that grief unresolved and in
Right.
a different place, and I'm sure that's come out in my life throughout in different ways. And what some of my, I guess, trauma response to some of that, what that looked like was anxiety.
Yep.
uh that played through. I deal with anxiety sometimes, and fear. There was just this fear instilled in me, the fear of losing someone else like that. So
Yes.
I would literally stand over my mom and dad sometimes, and they didn't know it, while they were asleep, to make sure they were still breathing. I would make sure
Right.
breathing, things like that, or um, when things happen with other people. It just kind of made me a worry ward. I worried a lot. Um, so, and then there was some delayed depression, I think, too. Um, is what mine looked like. I think I've, dealt with that from time to time. Had moments
Hmm.
of depression, and it probably stemmed from that, or that might have been the root. I had other
Absolutely.
life stuff to happen, but as we all do. But early on, I had to deal with something really, really deep, really traumatic, really life changing.
Yeah.
And I say all the time, I mean, life was never the same for me, you know,
Right.
since 12. So,
And do you think that had you been able to possibly talk to someone, things would be different?
absolutely. And I say that because now I'm 2 years, well, going on like a year and a half in therapy.
Hmm.
And I've been transparent about that on my posts, and to anyone who listens, I'm an advocate of it, because even though I'm not that deep into it yet, I see how beneficial it is and how I'm more self-aware, and just how things shape us, you know, how life experience shape who we are, who we become, things of that sort. But I walked around, all those years where I really haven't been able to, because sometimes you don't want to bring things up still, to talk about it with my mom. I still have to I understand that's her mom, and I can't understand that hurt. I don't want to think about that hurt, and what that feels like for her, or how that was for her. So sometimes we just don't want to open up to the people who are also hurting, or we
Right.
feel like are feel the same way or even worse than what you felt. So it's just good to me to have somebody she doesn't know me, my counselor, she doesn't know me. And so she's unbiased, with a lot of things most of the time. And it's just a safe place to say how I feel. And even she's helped me with tools of how to communicate things to people too, where they can
Right.
receive it, or where we can sit down and talk about it. But I have to kind of work through some things before I can even really fully open up, about things too. So, but I definitely feel like I would have been a different person,
Yeah.
um, had I had some therapy or some way to, release
Yeah.
that I've
Absolutely.
held into for so long. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we want to be able to help children navigate through this thing called grief. LaShawn, as I hear your story, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you up here to share that, the effects of it long term when it
Mm,
is when it has gone untreated.
right.
Um, and a lot of us as adults have dealt with things when we were children that are affecting us to this day. And so, hey, Ivy, Tasha was asking what signs a child might need professional support like we're offering. And so I'm going to use this example um, of a student that I had, and he really prompted me to want to do support group for children. One of my students lost a parent, and he had an okay year, but I watched him, towards the end of the year and how he kind of navigated through it. And he was not as focused as he had been before. I would find him staring off into space and kind of having to redirect him or see if he just needed a moment to talk. He would often tell me, I'm doing good, I'm okay, all the time, but I would still see him staring off into space sometimes, or, just not really focused, not able to complete tasks that he was able to complete before. And the very next year, I still kept up with him. And he would, come and see me often, hug or whatever. But one day I asked his teacher about him, and the teacher said that he had thrown a chair. And I was so shocked because that definitely was not him. It
Mm,
was not his character. He was such a loving young child. Like it just was not him. And I realized at that moment he has all this grief and he's feeling all these emotions and they're all bottled up inside, but he has nowhere to release it. He has
Mhm.
no way to express himself. And so I knew the need, at that moment. And even in our situation, we really didn't know really what to do as far as like counseling, therapy. We took our kids to a place called Duke Bereavement. They went there for a little bit, and we had even taken them to the hospital to see like is something going on. What should we do? And they were saying, oh, your kids are fine. They just had something traumatic to happen in their lives. And so, they didn't refer us to any counseling or anything like that, but we did find Duke Bereavement. It was good for them for a little bit. We went there and they went through a few sessions there and we thought everything was okay. And it is now even, and I wish I really had to put Devontae in more counseling, in hindsight. We just really didn't know at the time, what to do or even how to navigate it ourselves. And we thought we did the right thing, by taking him to do bereavement and things like that. But again, the counseling piece was not even talked about. And that was in 2009, but we really didn't hear about it. Like, of course, I'm hearing about it now. And so it was very big for me. It's very big for me now. And this is part of the reason that I went back to school to become a counselor so I can help people navigate through life's challenges. And to help people understand like it's okay. When I started school, my teachers were stressing that every therapist needs a therapist.
Mhm.
And these are professionals that are teaching, and this is what they're telling us. So every one of them would say, yeah, I had this long conversation with my therapist today and I told them blah, 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 blah. And then they're teaching us at the same time, nuggets from each part of it. And so that's how important it is. Hey, Facetia. Hey, Phyllis. Hey, Melissa. Thank you all for joining. But that's how important it is. And it is important for for children to get the help that they need, because they won't always come to their parents and tell their parents, mommy, I'm feeling this, or daddy, I'm feeling that. It comes out in their behavior. So some kids isolate.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, some kids isolate, they become, distant. They
Mhm.
don't want to talk. They're in their room. They could be now dealing with some form of depression from it. They don't know how to communicate. And then there are, and Tasha's asking too, behavioral changes. Same thing, they may isolate, or at school, now they're acting out. Their behavior has changed at school. Everything that you could tell them to pick up their shoes and then they fly off the handle. They're just angry, but it could stem from grief.
Yeah, I think you just have to, when you know your child,
Right.
anything that's out of the norm,
Mhm.
I don't care how small the change may be. If it's
Mhm.
something that's out of the norm, I would say it's better to go ahead and get that support. And that way, um, I go by, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and don't have it. So
Right.
when you know your child, you know um, when they're changing.
Mhm.
You know when they're changing, and we as parents sometimes we have to try our best to discern, like what they need
Right.
and when they need it.
Sleep patterns may be different. They may be eating
Yep.
differently now. Um, Lots of things.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it, and there's no one thing, but I think to Tasha's questions too, like doing things like this now, sometimes just being proactive, not waiting for a sign. So if you know that a
Absolutely.
child has gone through something
Right.
traumatic,
Right.
go ahead and seek
Yeah. That's
um
good. That's good.
assistance. And we're in a world where everything literally is at our fingertips.
Yep.
You don't really have to think anything up anymore. You know,
Yeah.
you
Right.
can ask questions, but there's information and there's tons of resources out here, more than what we all had and that I had back in 1988. And we're talking about these things. We're doing more, like what you all are doing right now, what we're doing tonight. So, sometimes it's about being proactive and not waiting for signs,
Mhm.
and hope in hopes that you don't get there, that you're getting the
Right.
coping skills that they need.
Yeah.
And just by asking questions and not being ashamed if you don't know
Absolutely.
something. If you don't
Yeah.
know, you just don't know. Um, but just ask the question. If you don't know what to say or what to put even to type in, ask the
Right.
questions, because there's so many resources out here that can help us for anything, but definitely for that. And I was going to say, for me, one of the things that I've over time realized about myself, I've been doing a lot of self searching and being in tune with what I'm doing, who I am, how I'm operating. But I realized that I'm attached to things.
Mm,
So I will hold on to something forever.
mhm.
Clothes, just stuff, so and that comes out sometime like in clutter or things of that sort. But it's because a lot of things have some sentimental value. And y'all know, I don't know if you remember this. You gave me a shirt when I was a small. I'm not small anymore, y'all. But and I had that shirt for years. It's been a long time since I've been a small. And I would not put or give that shirt away anytime I would be purging or something, because my best friend gave me that shirt. And I remember one day I said that to you, and you were
Yeah.
like, well, what shirt was that? You didn't even remember the shirt.
Mhm.
But I remembered you gave it to me, and I just wasn't going to give it away because it came from someone that I love and that I care about. And so for me, that's something, because then that means you end up with a bunch of stuff that you just don't need,
Absolutely.
and that's overwhelming. And I realize now, the more stressed that I am, the more things are around me, um,
Mm,
clutter and things of that sort. And then it just clouds your mind and does all this. Then you're frustrated because you have all this stuff, but it probably come from that. And I actually have two of my grandmas. Look, she used to wear these little house jackets that you just kind of snap up, and she would just be around the house and cooking in. And those are my prized possessions. The two things that I have kept since 1988. And every now and then I'll put them on because it just helps me to feel close to her. But
mhm.
it's just little things like that. So Tasha, it could be something as simple as, now, if a person was really neat or something, maybe they may not be as much. And it might not be those things that you kind of ordinarily see or hear about. But as June and Ayana said, it's just a matter of knowing your child, knowing what they're doing, knowing their patterns and their behaviors. And the moment you see a change, having a talk. And children are resilient.
Absolutely.
I mean, they really are. They really go through so much and really cope with a lot of things, but they still are children. And sometimes
Absolutely.
they may seem like they're okay, because I think we went on. I think life just went on, and I had a good friend group, and I was active in school and cheerleading and sports. So I went right back into that. So it probably looked like I was okay. I
Mhm.
know I
Yeah.
love to laugh and joke and have a good time. That's always been me. Um, but then there's still things, just buried deep down that we misplace or we don't want to confront, and we just kind of move on. And I think that's just what I did, for a long time.
Yeah. And another thing too that I witnessed, and that is Ayana, she would make them talk. She would ask questions just out of the blue, just,
Mm-hmm.
and that could be hard to do. It can be kind of frustrating sometimes because, well, I never seen her be frustrated, But I'm talking about as far as the kids, because they don't want to talk. Like they don't want to talk about that. You know, Makai might be like, Mom, why you, I mean, you know, but she made them talk, you know, and when you make them talk, and sometimes when she initiated those conversations, you know, they fell right in and just started talking. And I'm like, wow, because I'm sitting there like, okay, let me see how this gonna go. And but it helps. It helps when she pulled that conversation out of them. And I just heard you say that, you know, you just kind of just moved on. So we always say, you know, people say time heals all wounds. Well, we found that not to be true, you know,
Absolutely.
because time doesn't have the ability to heal. But what time does is it teaches you or it forces you to live with the pain. So once you get to a certain point, you know, it's like a scar. A scar is there, and there's pain up under that scar. Um, but time left that there. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of taught you and it forced you to live with what you had to go through at that moment.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, just we had to move on, and um, but with doing that, then other life things happen. So now, not only do I have that thing, you have other things that are, and so what's happening is all that stuff is layering, but that kind of laid the foundation,
Yep.
for some things, and so like I said, it's I could pull up at home and there was one too many cars in the yard. And I would automatically think my mind would go to something's happened. You
Yes.
know, one time my mom did not come to the door as fast as I thought that she should have. And I knew that day she'd had a migraine. And I literally sat here in the yard, and I was like, how am I going to get in the house? Because I didn't have a key or anything at the time. I was like, okay, I'm going to drive my car to the window, and I'm literally going to bust through this window to get to my mama, you know. But I know that underlying is that I was just waiting for something like that to happen again. That's how I was living my life, you know. Like that's gonna happen again, and I've said it before. That doesn't have to be my mama's story, her mama,
Right.
but that in my mind, that's what I always do. So just having that anxiety for simple things like cars, too many cars being in the yard, you know, made me
Mhm.
feel a certain way because that night there were tons of cars in the yard. So that could be triggering, you
Yep.
know. Sometimes with me being in that room, and anything could trigger you. It could be the way that it feels outside on a day, that brings back that memory. It could be like if I could see sirens, the lights from or hear it, sometimes that brings back, and that can be triggering after all these years,
Yep.
you know, because that's just something I will never forget unless my memory is taken away from me some kind of way. Like I can relive that and replay that, and I have many times. And so on top of that, you relive that,
Yeah.
you not in a healthy way. Talking about
Right.
it like tonight is a healthy way, and I can do it without crying. And but then some years, it's I'm a mess.
Yeah.
I'm a quiet mess, and when I say that, I cry in the car.
Yeah.
Where people don't know that I do it, or if I'm at night, or I might could be at my desk or something. I've done that over the years where people don't even know. And then you know what you do? You get yourself together and you go right back into whatever it is that you were doing. I go
Yeah.
right back to work, or I get out the car and I go right into church, or whatever or back into here with my friends. It could be a song. There's some Anita Baker songs that come on because at that time she was in heavy rotation. Can You Stand the Rain by New Edition. That brings me back to that moment because those songs were
Yeah.
in heavy rotation at that time. So, any little thing can be triggering, but it's like, and it's okay. And it's okay to reminisce. It's okay to feel. It's okay to grieve. You should. because you love these people and those people loved you, you know. So it's not something you should be ashamed of or not do and not release and be open about, because it's life. And as
Yep.
long as we're living, we're going to go through it.
Absolutely. I think you said a lot of things that we fail to recognize sometimes, but there are triggers. And when you talked about whether it be a song, whether it be the weather, you know, all these things can be triggers, sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important that we're able to recognize triggers. And so that's one of the things that we want to help the children recognize triggers. What is it that puts me back at this place? How can I deal with these things? And so we want to help them in those areas. Um, I talk about it often how myself, when this season came around and it was the fall of the year, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and then I found out that there is a such thing as seasonal
Seasonal depression
affective disorder.
and depression and stuff. Yep.
So there is, and it happens the same time of year, and it puts you in a place. And I just thought, wow. So, just helping children to navigate through these things. And as I look at the comments, hey, Risha, hey, Miss Jackie, hey, Kiara, hey, Miss Betty, thank you all for joining us. Hey, Kimberly. When I look at some of the comments, these are things that adults are dealing with as well. So can you imagine us as adults, we kind of, force our way through it, but the children who have no roadmap, they don't know what to do or how to do it, with the things that they're feeling. We just want them to have a healthy way to express their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so, will every day be a great day? No, absolutely not. But we want to help you to be able to make it through that moment. And so, guess what?
And I wanted to come on and, and was open to sharing as a way to encourage parents, and not the children per se, but the parents, to make sure that you are getting your children help that they need. And with that, you need help too.
Absolutely.
And that's another day, another time, because we're everybody normally is going through this grief at the same time, you know and you may not be equipped with handling grief, or or even much less to how to teach your children to do it. So it's important that you two get help. But that I just wanted to come in here to encourage you, so that I'm kind of like what not to do, the example of what could happen if you don't do those things,
Mhm.
and how it can affect many areas of your children's lives as they grow and come into adulthood, and how those things can play out, and you don't know how it's going to play out, but it could be good, it could be bad. you
Yeah.
know um, Thankfully I don't think I did anything too crazy,
Right.
um, with that grief, maybe with some other things and other episodes of stuff, but with the grief, you know I still had a pretty decent childhood. Um, and I guess I coped pretty well, but
Mhm.
I know I can't even probably say at times how it did play out, that I probably didn't recognize and can correlate the two without really literally sitting here and thinking about it sometimes. And that's some things and some layers that therapy is helping me to, see some things, and
Right.
to connect the dots as to why I am and why I operate the way that I do. And some of it, a lot of it is just because of experience that I've had, So I'm just, like I said, here to encourage parents to make sure that you are getting your children what they need, um, at this time, and it's not too late.
It is not too late. And so, guys, we are excited. Tomorrow is our first support group for youth.
Mhm.
And so we ask that you bring your kids out. Um, And we're excited about tomorrow. And so we start at 6 o'clock, 205 Dabney Drive in Henderson. Join us, please. Please bring your children, all ages, school age children, bring them. And we're going to work through this thing.
It works.
It does. It does.
Works.
And support group has been one of the greatest factors for our healing in the process of our healing. I can definitely say, as I see Miss Betty up here, you know, she has been such a help to us so much because she started the journey before we did. And so she was able to really help us navigate through this thing called grief. So again, youth support group tomorrow, October the 10th at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Abrias Chase Foundation, 205 Dabney Drive in Henderson. It is free and it is open to the public. We're going to feed your babies as well. So don't even worry about having to go and get them a late night dinner or anything, but we're going to feed them. Thank you so much, my Gloria. Thank you. But I'm so excited. And LaShawn, thank you for sharing your story because that's a lot. And so that shows growth within itself, that you are able to articulate your feelings. You're able to say what was, and you see the need for it. And so thank you for sharing your story to express how important it is. And even if the kids are saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, let them come. Just try it for one time. Just encourage them to just try it and just see. It won't be as bad as, you know, they think. I can remember going to a session in Raleigh, and I just thought, you know, I'm not going to talk in front of all of these people. There were hundreds of people there. And so we ended up going, and it was so good. It was just the best. And one of the greatest parts was hearing other people's story, because one thing about grief, you feel like you're alone.
Right.
You're not.
And you'll learn that you might, I mean, there's another person in my life that has a similar story to me, and someone I love a lot, you know, that person went through something, and I never really thought about how I could have been maybe some support for that person at the time, just through saying, I understand how you feel, you know, and because I've walked that walk with that person, did lose a grandparent, much like in a way that I did.
Wow.
So and there's still opportunity for me to do that. And I guess I will, now that I'm saying it, you know, at least to reach out, and because sometimes you just need to know that you're not alone.
Absolutely. Risha, yes, please reach out to me. I don't know which area you're in now, but everywhere needs it, because so many people have lost. And so any way I can help you to, you know, start that there, absolutely. It's so needed. It's so needed. LaShawn, did you see Ivy's comment?
I didn't. You know what? I thought about that. I was like, boy, I'm on here as Rich Homie Sean. So you all forgive me for that. I'm doing the serious. There's that other side of me. I'm a jokester.
When I tried to tag you with the flyer, I was like, well, where's LaShawn's name? Then I thought, oh, it's my Rich Homie.
Rich Homie. But guys, we'll save that for another live.
Yes. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Join us tomorrow, October the 10th, 6 o'clock. It is my baby's birthday tomorrow. Yay. It is Chase's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
He would be 16 years old.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That is something.
Hey, Jaretta.
That's my buddy.
Yes. Hey, Jaretta. Oh, Winston-Salem. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
No, you can go ahead.
Risha, I was going to, we have to talk, because I know some things up in that area. So yes, we do have to talk. I know Marla 16. Isn't that something? He would be 16 years old tomorrow. And so I am just I'm sorry. I'm just in awe to think that he would be that old. So it is just so interesting. But thank you guys for joining. Join us tomorrow. Spread the word. Share it with someone.
Yes.
Like, tag, and share this video. Share it with someone that may need this. And hearing LaShawn's story and her testimony is just really powerful. So yes, Sean, you have another fan.
I'm low key ashamed right now in this moment.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. All right, Risha. Tasha, you had to pull out the calculator. I know. I thought I was off, but it is the truth. So anyway, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Spread the word.
Good night.
Everyone's welcome. Thank you.